What's up, everybody? Mark with Cardivox Academy here, and today we're getting caught up. We're getting caught up because, here's the thing. I am but one man, and sometimes I get a little bit behind on my work, and I have gotten very behind on my work because, long story short, there are many logistical aspects of being a father that I did not anticipate. But today I have the house to myself. And so I'm getting caught up on our patron submissions. There are a couple, there are a couple I need to do, but our patrons every month can nominate and vote on one song for me to react to. And it could be anything, right? I reacted to Cardi B one time. That was actually a really fun video to make. It won. But anyways, today it's Left to Suffer, Primitive Urge, featuring Joe Bad. Now, I'm excited to do this one because, here's the thing. Taylor and Jill are both really good vocalists. That much is obvious. But it's always extra cool when the vocalist is actually also a rad person. And I have had the pleasure of meeting them both. And they're both really cool dudes. So it always kind of gets me extra hyped when I'm like, not only is this a cool musician, but this is a cool person as well. Now, if you're new to the channel, again, my name is Mark. I'm a metal vocalist myself. I'm in a band called Kardashev on Metal Blade Records. Check it out if you want. It's on Spotify. If you don't want, it'll make me cry. It's all right. Cry all the time anyway. It's the only way I know how to fall asleep. That was depressing. Just kidding. And also, I am a metal vocal coach. I teach people how to make all sorts of cool metal vocals sound safely and efficiently. So if you're interested in doing stuff like, just, check out the website in the description below. Send me an email and we'll see what we can do. Now, that's about it. That's all I've got. So let's go ahead. Left to Suffer, Primitive Urge, Joe Bad. Here we go. Okay, that's a good place to pause. So, a couple of things. Number one, I love the high scream that's opening up, right? One thing that I really like about Taylor's voice, having both heard it, in studio recordings like this, and also seen him live, is that when it comes to relaxation, this dude has got it down, right? I remember seeing him live doing some of his vocals, and honestly, he looked like he was just chilling on stage. Not a whole lot. I mean, I've seen a lot of talented vocalists live, but vocalists who look like they're just honestly lounging, right? He's standing up there. He's doing really good showmanship. He's really engaging with the crowd, but he also looks like he's just hanging out, right? Now, the reason I'm pointing this out is because high vocals tend to be a place, the song opened with that big, long high. High vocals tend to be a place where a lot of people create a ton of glottal pressure, right? They lean on their vocal cords, even if we're doing textured stuff, right? Like this scream, similar to what he was doing, maybe not the exact same, but similar, like this, like that sort of sound, right? Even I had a little voice crack at the beginning there. But that sort of sound, it tends to run into the same issue we have when we're trying to sing high notes, right? Which is it's hard to do, so I must need to squeeze my throat to force it out, right? And while that is kind of logical, right? Because tighter spaces tend to create higher pitches, right? The tighter the guitar string, the higher the pitch is going to be. I mean, it has to do with gauge and stuff as well. It's not functional, and it doesn't help us in any way. There's really no instance where you need to squeeze down on your throat. Now, we do create, I've talked about this all the time, there are ways we can create strategic constriction of the airflow, but that's totally different than just clamping down on our throat, right? And so when we open up, when we lead with relaxation and let the voice lift up and out of our head, it's not actually that bad. So if you can do this, right? If you can do this, now it may not be super easy, it may take you some time, but if you can do this, if you can go, hey, hey, and then you can take that and give it kind of like an annoying twang, hey, hey, and you can do this, just a basic, old school false chord, hey, 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 hey. Aim it the same way. Hey, 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 hey. You've got a basic high, right? Now there's a lot that you can do to that to make it sound a little bit more cool and interesting. Taylor here is working on a lot of timbre. He's really brightening it up. But that's something. Now I could talk about his high for another like 10 minutes. But I also want to talk a little bit about his like sort of pitched yell, his pitched shout. It must just be a Barber thing, because he and Tom Barber of Chelsea Grin / Darko, they both have a really nice sort of relaxed, like just kind of gritty. It's like a gritty shout, right? And it kind of comes from like this sort of headspacey placement. It's really interesting. It's not a sound I do a lot, so I'm not really going to try to replicate it here. But if you're going for that, if you're going for any sort of gritty shout, right? If you're going for any sort of gritty shout, one thing you can do is you can also base it on relaxation, right? So I'm going to do a different type of one. But if I'm here, hey, 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 ha, 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 hey, hey, right? If you're going to do that, if you focus on relaxation and you have a good understanding of your breath control, it's not going to be that hard, but that can take some time. Anyways, we got a lot more song left, so here we go.
Down while I'm losing my head with my feet on the ground. Fell in love with what it is. Silently judging me, but you don't know how to live. I'm dying, cause I'm feeling alive. And manipulating others is just part of your time. I'm trying to justify the only form of self-punishment is on the inside.
Yeah.
I can't decide for what box I'm looking in. Makes it hard to breathe, even harder to believe. And my feet are tired from walking through hell.
I had the pleasure of talking with Taylor outside of a show he played. I think they were playing with Scumfuck. Oh, I can't remember who else. But I was like, yo, man, like I want to talk to you about your tone. And so we had this kind of long conversation. It was a really good time. But one thing he told me, and like this is one of my favorite things about metal vocals, is we have a lot of freedom, right? There's a lot of freedom to kind of do things in a way that works for us. And so a lot of people, when we're creating these low tones, our tongue is forward and curled, right? Like that. He told me that on a lot of his vocals, his tongue is kind of bunched up and pulled back. So like this, kind of like sort of like this, kind of like that. For me, it kind of squashes the sound, but for him, and he showed me, it like really opens up the sound. And I remember being like kind of like not like blown away, but like surprised, like, wow, that's like not how I would do it. But it sounds amazing, and he's got a great command of it. One thing that I think is really smart about doing that, right, is a lot of times when we want low tone, we need to think about resonating in our mouth, right? We need to think about our voice being like When we think about the term chest voice, oftentimes people will think that means they need to push their voice into their chest. So instead of here, maybe lock them doors and turn the lights down low, right? I'm not a country singer, but like voice in the front of the mouth, they'll swallow their voice. Baby, lock them doors and turn the lights down low. Now that, play that music just soft and slow, right? Pushing my larynx down into my throat, you're gonna strain out super quick, right? And if I'm resonating in the front, play that music just soft and slow, you can hear ooh, ooh, oh. There's a lot more depth of tone, right? So by pulling his tongue back, he's kind of creating more space in the front of his mouth. But oftentimes when we were doing lows, we kind of want to create space in the back of our mouth. So it's just kind of funky, right? And he did a couple screams for me, just like outside in the parking lot. And I was like, dang, dude, those sound thick. So, the reason I'm pointing this out is because sometimes we hear people talk about tongue position with metal vocals, and it's just not working for us. Do something different. Who cares? Not me, right? As long as you're creating distortion in a healthy way, the rest is kind of up for grabs for you to do what you think sounds cool, right? I know for me, I do like a lot of stuff with my tongue like floating in the middle, right? Like that. Right? I just leave my tongue hovering in the middle, and that works really well for me, but maybe not doesn't work for everybody else. something to think about, right? But I love the way he closes down. He goes from those pitched yells, those more pitched, gritty shouts, and then he closes down into those more traditional, I guess we could say, deathcore lows. But anyways, I don't think I've missed Joe yet. I don't know exactly when his feature starts, but actually, we could probably check oftentimes it says in the lyrics. Let me see. I already opened him up. Let's see. Joe Bad. I can't sleep with the thoughts that are locked inside. I mean, his voice is really distinct, so we're going to hear it anyway. I'm just being impatient. Here we go. Oh, I paused at the worst time ever. But you know what? We live and we die by our decisions, so I'm sticking with it. So, one thing, and this is kind of it, but like I absolutely love Taylor's creaky, thin, like not thin in a bad way, thin as in, maybe I should say focused. Focused is a better word. Like creaky, focused high vocals. They are so ring wraithy. They are so just crisp. And you know, that's a sound that I have found either comes really naturally for people or doesn't, right? And I would say that if you're trying to go for that sort of sound, right? That ain't how I do my highs at all. I'm lazy. I do if I can just take and then aim it up, that's how I'm going to do a high, right? But if this way is something that you're trying to do, one thing you can focus on is rather than tightening the vocal folds, because a lot of people will do this and they'll go like, and they're just squeezing on and it sounds like that. It doesn't sound very good. Think about and listen, I'm not even gonna try because it's just not my thing. But think about creating that closure of space more so in the back of the mouth. Utilize the tongue, utilize the soft palate. That's not where you're gonna be creating distortion, but that's where you can sort of thin out the airstream to get that narrower sound. And then of course we've got Joe's mids. Joe's mids are awesome. Actually, Joe showed me a way that he sort of like ramps into his mids, because one thing is like, we can all be vocalists forever, but when we get in front of the mic, sometimes we do some like quick calibrations. Like for me, when, you know, I'm going to do some lows and I've just warmed up and I'm about to get started, I do a lot of this. I go, okie dokie, work, off I go then, more work. I just do like Warcraft 3 orc voices. He does this really cool thing. At least this is what he did when I saw it. He does this thing where he like starts this like little low rumble. And he was telling me that he looks for it to, this was a couple years ago, so I may be remembering a little bit inconsistently, but he looks to feel the distortion like in the back of his mouth. So it kind of had like, it started with like that old man wheeze sound. You've probably seen that tutorial floating around, which it's not a bad way to learn how to do metal vocals, but like starting with an old man wheeze, if you don't know what you're supposed to be looking for, can be a real hard thing on your vocal cords. But anyway, I digress. So if he was like, he opened his mouth up and he was like, and he got kind of there. And I was like, that's really smart, actually. That's really smart. The closure of the mouth is going to help even out pressure basically on either side of our distortion mechanism, whatever we're doing. So like, and then of course he started doing his own vocals and it sounded awesome, right? So that's something you can think about as well, like doing some of your warm-ups with your mouth closed. Just a little cool trick I saw. But anyways, yeah, and I've even found myself using it as well. But anyways, I'm going to go back a little bit because I really want to hear Taylor do whatever this awesome thing was. Oof, I want to hear it. All right, my only criticism is that song could have lasted a lot more than 3 minutes, and I would have been fine with it. Last thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about just general mouth shape, right? General mouth shape. So listening to this, one thing that can be very valuable when we're thinking about our low tones is thinking about having I had a vocal coach who described it to me, and I think this is kind of common, but as having tall vowels, right? Back when I took some vocal lessons, she told me, think about having like a tent pole from the inside of your bottom lip to your top lip to create more space, right? And that's really, she wasn't teaching me metal vocals, but that's a really kind of good way to think about it. And you can hear this like, this sort of space for a tent pole. I think one of the lyrics he said is, we're in this together. He doesn't say, we're in this together. He says, we're in this together. Right? You can hear that tent pole space in the front of the mouth. Check it out. I'm going to go back a little bit and you can listen to it, then we'll wrap it up. Yeah, that was sick. Yeah, great embouchure, great control of resonance within the mouth. Anyway, kind of a short and sweet video, but very, very cool. Yeah, I would love, it's a surprise to me that we've never gotten Taylor on the channel, because I would love to pick his brain on those like really sort of like pterodactyl high vocals that he does, because I've just never produced that sound, and it would be really fun to get some insight on that. But anyways, awesome pick from the patrons. Think about even airflow, think about opening the mouth, think about the way that you lead into your voice. And yeah, that's all I got. So with that being said, now I'm going to get on to my student emails. So beyond that, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I check out Left to Sever, Primitive Urge, featuring Joe Bad, A Fit for an Autopsy, official music video. And that's all I got. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.